At this conference, you're no doubt hearing about more marketing tools and more channels. So, why should you care about social proof as yet another strategy to think about? Well, how do people shop these days? People reach your page, maybe through an ad or direct search, and then after a few seconds, they'll open up five other tabs to do comparison shopping and research. And before you know it, you've lost your prospect. So, all the things you're learning at this conference, all the work that you put into SEO search rankings, content, ads, word of mouth to get a visitor just to your site is the starting point to that visitor's purchasing journey. And we have to remember that. The stats aren't so friendly either. Fewer than 3% of e commerce store visitors convert to a sale. We know that the average session is usually less than 1 minute, and most users bounce within 15 seconds. So, we're all working with limited time and real estate on your website where you can do everything you have to do. You have to tell your story, build credibility, and have a strong call to action. And to top it all off, not to be a Debbie Downer, but consumers are getting smarter and they are more skeptical today about ads and copy. So I just spent 5 minutes looking at some copy on random websites. This is real copy I found today. A real estate firm says, "We provide each and every client with the best real estate experience imaginable." A used car dealership says, "With competitive prices offered, you won't find a reason to visit any other dealership." And a fashion brand says, "We have cute dresses every woman needs." Okay, so what do you think of these statements? Do you believe that real estate firm has the best customer service, that there are best prices, most fashionable styles? Well, if you thought that these vague statements make the company actually seem less trustworthy, I would agree with you, and I think most others would too. So, the effective alternative is to actually give people what they really care about when they make purchasing decisions online. And what they really want to know is just, what do other people say about you? In order to build trust with your audience, these days you need to show rather than to tell. You need to use your customers' voices to build credibility and confidence with the new prospects you have coming to your site. Because the truth is, no one cares what you say about you, unfortunately. They care what your customers say about you. So there is a term for this bandwagon effect you feel from social cues, and it's called social proof. And it is a social phenomenon that is rooted in all of our psychologies. Social proof is pretty widely known, but it's not always well understood. However, if you figure out how to harness it correctly for your business, you can build trust and credibility with your audience in an organic and effective way. And that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah, we're actually familiar with social proof in our lives today. So Black Friday is one example. Everyone acts totally crazy on this day, screaming and running through stores. If you've ever had the misfortune of going to a Black Friday event, people are even trampled and hurt on these days. And you couldn't do this any other day of the year. It's just because everyone else acts crazy on this day, it's considered socially acceptable behavior. It's also the feeling you get when you walk by a crowded restaurant. We've all probably had this feeling. It instantly becomes more desirable and more attractive to us. And you feel like you're missing out on something special. It's the feeling of FOMO, which coincidentally is the name of our business. Uh, yeah, so we are able to recognize social proof in the wild. But what exactly is it? And what's the psychology behind it? Social proof is a behavioral signal. And social proof is more effective when you don't know how to behave, because that's when you start looking around for whatever the popular behavior is. Let's illustrate this with an example. In 2008, the HMRC in the UK used the slogan, even if one person fails to pay their taxes, it reduces the services and resources that are provided. So, yeah, to me, that sounds like a nice slogan. It conveys the cause and effect of the individual's decision to pay taxes. It's informational. But then in 2009, they changed the slogan to something more simple. 9 out of 10 people in Britain pay their taxes on time. This resulted in a 29% higher clearance rate of people paying their taxes. That's pretty fascinating, right? So, what was happening here is that these folks saw that most others were paying taxes on time, and they did the same because they thought that this was the popular behavior to do. Which leads me to my next point, which is that social proof is more powerful in situations of uncertainty or ambiguity. And if y'all think about it, that's kind of what a consumer transaction is in a nutshell, right? There's some informational asymmetry there where the seller knows much more about the product than the buyer knows. So naturally, a bit of uncertainty for the buyer. In 1969, a study was done to see how male undergraduates react when walking and hearing a female actress cry out in pain. We'd hoped that they would help 100% of the time, but that actually was not the case. They were less likely to offer help when strangers were around who weren't helping. And they were more likely to help when they were alone and the only people around. The study found that in these sort of ambiguous situations where you might not know what to do, each bystander may look to others for guidance before acting. You might know this commonly as the bystander effect. And what it means is that people are just more influenced by what others are doing than what they think they should be doing sometimes. So as much as we don't like to admit it, we all have a subconscious at work who is afraid to act differently. And a more recent 2012 study compared the effectiveness of two different online persuasion claims. And I found this super interesting. The first claim was about limited product availability. So saying, hey, there are only 3 items left. The second claim was about product popularity, saying something like 94% of consumers bought this product. So consumers were shown the different claims and then later asked to rank the product quality from 1 to 7. And the results are shown here. The popularity claim appeared to actually enhance quality perception and purchase intention, especially for the risk-averse consumers. On the other hand, the limited availability claim exerted no influence as far as statistical significance was concerned. So the finding here is that the popularity claim had much more of an impact on purchase intention. And this is just one example of the power of social proof, even over scarcity and urgency theory. And like a part of this that I found super interesting was that the popularity claim had a true perception shift. People actually thought that the quality of the product was better just because they thought others liked it. Another layer of social proof theory to understand is herd conformity. Here is a funny social hidden camera segment that captures herd conformity well. So if Kenneth, you wouldn't mind helping me out with the video, please.
We set up a hammer experiment to see if this woman would stand up at the sound of this tone, simply because everyone else is. You might be thinking you'd never go along with this. Or would you? After just 3 beats, and without knowing why she's doing it, this woman is now conforming perfectly to the group. But what happens if we take the group away?
Elaine, please.
Okay, now she's alone. The crowd is gone and nobody is watching her except our hidden cameras. What do you think she'll do? She's now conforming to the rules of the group without them even being there. Now, watch what happens when we introduce another outsider who doesn't know the rules.
Have a seat and they'll be out in just a couple minutes. Thanks so much. Everybody was doing it, so I thought I was supposed to.
Think she'll teach the new guy what to do? We kept the cameras rolling as more unsuspecting patients arrived. And slowly but surely, what began as a random rule for this woman has now become the social norm for everyone in this waiting room.
When I saw everybody stand up, I felt like I needed to join them. Otherwise, I'm like excluded. Once I decided to go with it, then I felt much more comfortable.
I thought that video was hilarious, but it illustrates my point. Thanks, Kenneth. The interesting part here was the tension and awkwardness in not doing what everyone else was doing. But then the subject felt much more comfortable when she started standing and sitting too along with the group, even though it was pretty ridiculous to do that. So this video illustrated normative conformity, which is the tendency to behave in certain ways in order to be accepted by the entire group. What it shows is that the presence of peers impacts brain activity and leads to changes in risk taking and trust decisions. As social psychologist Robert Cialdini puts it, as a rule, we will make fewer mistakes by acting in accord with social evidence than contrary to it. Usually, when a lot of people are doing something, it's the right thing to do. Like most things, there is a caveat here. It cuts the other way too. Be careful of negative social proof, which is anything that demonstrates that people think your product is bad. A social share icon can demonstrate your brand's popularity, but if you only have 10 shares on a post, it's actually best to remove it. And here's why. In 2007, the IRS added penalties for tax evasion. When explaining their reasoning, the IRS emphasized that the penalties were needed because large numbers of people were falsifying returns. That year, identified cases of tax fraud increased by 22%. Crazy, right? What happened was that with their message, the IRS actually inadvertently normalized tax fraud by saying that lots of people were doing it. And then the fraud actually became the popular behavior. All to say, it's better to have no social proof than to have negative social proof. Alrighty, now we have an idea of what social proof is. Let's talk strategy. Here are 10 tactics you can start using today to employ social proof as a marketing principle. Testimonials and reviews are a great way to display social proof. Here are some stats you've probably heard before but are relevant here. The average consumer reads 10 online reviews before making a purchase decision. And 90% of prospects say their purchasing decisions are impacted by customer reviews. That's pretty powerful stuff. And with this data, if you know that they are going to find your reviews anyway, you might as well put these reviews directly on your site. So your visitor does not have to leave to go to Google, Yelp, Trustpilot, or wherever else they go to read what others say about you, and then you might lose your prospect. Wisdom of the crowd is a second way to use social proof. The French did this well in the 19th century. They hired claques to applaud during the encore of a performance. This would encourage others to follow along and clap as well. And in modern day, we know this as laugh tracks for sitcoms. It's a similar concept. And studies show that laugh tracks make the audience laugh longer and rate the material as funnier. And when applying this tactic to marketing a product or a service, this can be done with a message that shows off aggregate engagement. So like your total number of customers, your total sales, your total chocolate bars made, whatever is relevant for you. And kind of like what McDonald's started doing in 1955. They popularized a slogan, over 1 million served, and they've since continued that slogan with their new customer count. Highlighting popularity or large numbers of users like this implies that 1 million people can't be wrong, and this is a quite powerful message. Another related way to harness social proof is relying on the wisdom of friends and family. According to Nielsen, 92% of consumers put more trust into what their friends and family buy than any other form of advertising or marketing. And Dropbox is a prime example of a company that capitalized on this concept super well. They gave extra storage space to both the referrer and the referees. And with this friend-to-friend referral program, Dropbox referrals increased signups by 60% permanently. Another tactic is real-time user activity, and this is actually what we do at FOMO. We help users show off real-time activity in the form of notifications that show up on your site. FOMO increases trust, credibility, and conversions with a live feed of what's going on in your store at any given time. And by doing this, we help businesses convey the online equivalent of a busy store. Social norms are more compelling when people are shown evidence that the behavior is actually being practiced by people who are just like them. And it makes sense that a recommendation has more influence when it comes from a peer versus a stranger. You're more likely to trust your neighbor Sally's stamp of approval than that anonymous Karen's 1-star Yelp review. For example, the green tech company O-Power had an 80% response rate increase when they started sending emails that compared the household's energy use versus their neighborhood's energy use. Families were seeing that others like them were conserving more electricity than they thought, and this is what actually encouraged them to activate. So I encourage you guys to think about how to define your prospect's tribe that could help with your next social proof campaign. Getting an authority figure or expert to endorse your product is another use of social proof. The idea is that the trust is being placed in the expert, who is the more knowledgeable figure in the domain, and then that trust rubs off on your product or service. We see this happening widely in skincare. Nowadays, doctors are being made the face and name of the product, even if they likely aren't very involved in the formulation or the operation. It's just their name that's valuable and placed on the bottles. Social proof plus authority equals a massive potential increase in consumer trust. So think about the industry leaders and company endorsements that might work well for your business and speak to your audience. You can also get validated by an institution, a board, or an organization. For example, the Michelin star is a mark of distinction awarded by Michelin travel guides to restaurants of the highest standards. A study showed that the introduction of the Michelin guide not only generated a price premium effect of about 30%, but also a surge in the perception of the quality of the food, the decor, and the service, even when the menu and the service hadn't changed at all. So think about what you're paying for the next time you go to a Michelin star restaurant. The influencer or celebrity opinion can also be super helpful. Starting in 1996, once a year, Oprah releases a list of her favorite things. And because placement on this list is so coveted, she has an entire team to help her source and create a curated list all year round. Then Oprah herself flies to their headquarters to see everything in person and make final selections. And the reason why there's so much effort put into this is because her stamp of approval is so valuable. It has literally taken companies from mom and pop shops to million-dollar businesses. If an influential person is willing to promote the product with their face and their name, that's seen as a powerful signal, and people understand that. Influencers, if you think about it, have the power to affect the purchasing decisions of others because of lots of different things that you'll get access to. They have authority, knowledge, position, and close relationships with their audience. Here's a stat that I found interesting. Twitter found that influencers created a 5.2 times increase in purchase intent when users were exposed to both the brand and influencer tweets, compared to 2.7 times when just shown the brand tweets alone. Next is publishing case studies with specific customers. You can ask your customers to talk in depth about how they use your product or service, and then talk about their story as well. Case studies are extremely powerful for the part of the purchasing decision funnel when your buyer is evaluating you versus your competitors. A case study is a story, and stories fascinate people and are often more easily remembered than facts. The data on this subject shows that consumers who are exposed to the brand story describes the brand in much more positive terms and are willing to pay more for the product. We share case studies frequently at FOMO as marketing material during sales calls, support tickets, newsletters, co-marketing with our integration partners, and basically wherever it can make sense. The point here is that we make sure prospects have access to specific data and stories about how companies that are, again, similar to them in size and industry. So we're also playing to wisdom of the tribe stuff here. And make sure that they see stories where people similar to them are able to achieve growth with our product. And the final social proof strategy I'm going to cover today is about virality and PR. A combination of pushing urgency and social proof can sometimes lead to virality, where people are all huddled around something because it's happening right here and right now. The Girlfriend Collective is a yoga brand, and they spent their entire marketing budget during launch on giving their leggings away for free. For a limited time, if you paid just for the cost of shipping, the brand would send you a pair of $100 leggings for free. I was also a customer when they went along with this campaign, but all you had to do was share a link to its website on Facebook, and using this model, the Girlfriend Collective sold 10,000 pairs of leggings just on the first day of the campaign. Pretty powerful. And there's more. Here's a more complete list of digital marketing specific strategies to think about to add social proof for your marketing strategy. So if you've zoned out, with this presentation, I think this is where you'd wake up and take a screenshot. So I'd encourage you to look through and figure out, use this kind of like as a checklist and figure out what you're missing in your current marketing toolkit that might work well for your business. Does it work? Does social proof work? Since FOMO is a social proof product, we also have data that shows social proof, at least as it relates to FOMO, does indeed work. And I'm running out of time, so I'm going to skip through to some of these. Ed Lattimore is a former professional heavyweight boxer, author, overcomer of addictions, and self-improvement role model. Really interesting guy. Ed's business is his website where he hosts the courses, books, and content he's created around the writing and self-improvement space. Ed uses FOMO to display on his website in real time 3 different types of activities: when someone joins his newsletter, his membership program, or when someone buys a product. After he started showing off this customer engagement, his sales conversions for direct traffic visitors went from 11 to 20%. And for Ed's use case, social proof worked really well because Ed is, like, as a personal figure, pretty well known. And his blog is also well known. So very often people would land on his website for a specific piece of content, and they weren't necessarily looking to buy anything. FOMO would let new prospects see that actually things are selling, he has an active store, and it got them interested, and then they would check out his products. Another example is Hello Guru. It's an online course platform teaching students how to create websites and web apps and get certified in no-code tools. They actually have an existing growth team, and they were focused on mailing campaigns and automations, but they were still facing a high bounce rate and a low conversion to sign up. They found FOMO by seeing a notification from another website, and they loved the idea of digitizing the effect of a restaurant full of people. Their Google Analytics showed them that after adding the FOMO widget, there was a 23% increase in conversions to signups. And you can feel free to read more about social proof and case studies about it at blog.fomo.com. So wrapping up here, remember that social proof is ingrained in our human psyche. In a tribal society, following the crowd meant that you didn't get eaten by the lion or you didn't eat the poisonous berry. It's the mental shortcut when we're faced with a lot of decisions. Just look at what everyone else is doing. Even though we haven't lived in tribal hunter-gatherer society in a while, we're still predisposed to normative social behavior. Since marketing is actually just about understanding how humans think and feel and reason and make decisions, I encourage you to look into how you could be using more social proof for your business today. Today, we learned that if you want to make customers feel confident in their purchase or just convince them to try your product to begin with, social proof is an immensely powerful tool. We learned the psychology behind social proof theory, and we covered 10 tactics to use social proof marketing for your business starting today. Thank you all for sticking with me. I appreciate the time to chat with you all. Again, my name is Hideko, and you can say hi or ask questions at h@fomo.com.
Again, if you've got any questions, great presentation, by the way. Let me ask the audience, if you have any questions, make sure you pop up and ask them now. But I want to ask you a question real quick. For which stages of the business life cycle is social proof useful?
Yeah, great question. So social proof can be useful across stages of the business life cycle, all the way from early days to a fully mature company. But the use case might be different depending on the problems that you're facing. So, for example, at the early stage of the company cycle, you might still be trying to establish credibility. So you might want to just show that your operation is legitimate. You can show off that you're responding to support tickets, show off that people are buying products and signing up to, to your newsletter. You want to just show off that you have a busy store and that people trust you. And then at the later stage of the company cycle, maybe when people aren't questioning your credibility anymore, they might be on your page, but then your problem might be that you just want to give them a little nudge to convert. And so you might use social proof to inform like what the most popular product is. You might appeal to the wisdom of the tribe strategy to show that peers just like them have already converted, or you might use it for competitive differentiation. But yeah, you can still use social proof, but it might be effective in a different way.
So I got a couple of people. I'm going to jump back. They wanted to know what the code was for the extended trial, and it is Digimarcon. So good to see that people
Yeah,
are
it's special
interested
for
as
you guys.
well. So Hideko, thank you so very much. I want to wish you an amazing afternoon. Make certain to get in touch with Hideko, please. I got another one that said great job. So really enjoyed this presentation very, very much, and go out and have a great day.